Coming at you live from NAB Day 2. We've got an exciting lineup for you today. We're going to be showing our panel from yesterday, including some of our incredible partners. And then we had some interviews with them afterwards, so you can hear directly from them. We're also doing something really cool today. When you're not hearing from us, we're actually live streaming the main stage of the Creator Lab, so you can watch all those panels on CREE8 TV. See you there.
As somebody who's a big believer in live production, I'm super excited about this panel. I'm going to give a quick overview of the speakers. Connie Sawyer is a president and owner of Connie Sawyer LLC. Lisa Watts is CEO of CREE8 Incorporated. Mark Janin is head of production and CEO of Tyrell Corporation. And Rob Hedrick is Senior Director of Production at the National Hot Rod Association. So that sounds like fun. I wish I had that job. And being the moderator on this panel today will be Andy Beach, who's a media and AI strategist at Alchemy Creations. And I'll hand it over to Andy. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that, Tom. Appreciate everything you've done to help bring all this track together. And thank you for helping us speed through it by doing some of the introductions. I think this is going to be a great conversation. It's really a good spotlight on the cloud workflows and bringing live sports to a place where it can be done economically and easy. I think we've already done through the main intros, but I did want to sort of quickly jump to each of you as part of your intro, and I'm just going to go sort of down the line. So Mark, I'm going to start with you. Can you help give me sort of some sense of one thing the cloud has brought to the work that you're doing that is making it easier for you or surprising?
Do you want to click this one?
Yes, I would say that in a sentence, it has massively improved the speed of which a contribution to a live broadcast happens. It is, we're able to collaborate, pull stuff in faster at sometimes than our EVS guys are doing it, which is really, really useful and it makes it enjoyable watching.
And Connie, sort of same question for you here, really. What is cloud making possible for you?
Well, I think before I jump to that, I think in my introduction and the slide, the International Sport Federation for Equestrian Sports is my client. So I am actually here representing them because ultimately I'm responsible for the content coming out of the North American League for the World Cup Series. So that'll put it in context and make a little more sense. So in terms of being responsible for all the content from the federation level, I know Mark said about speed, but we're a Eurocentric sport, so this has opened up being able to use talent from across the globe and in Europe that wasn't necessarily available to us because we don't have the budgets to fly everybody. It's also made it possible to use time zones to our advantage for a quick turnaround. And so we have talent from the West Coast to Europe, all working together while we're on the ground at the event.
Great, thanks so much. I'm gonna jump ahead to Rob. Rob, maybe quickly sort of the same thing. What is cloud allowing you to do in context of NHRA?
NHRA is the fastest motorsport in the world. We have cars that go 0 to 350 miles per hour in under 4 seconds. When I started here, we had to fly hard drives home every weekend, so we create about 6 to 10 terabytes a weekend, and someone had to fly that drive home. Now a car goes down the track and it's ready to be edited in 3.5 minutes. So an editor can be sitting anywhere in the world, edit the content, have it back to the truck in under 10 minutes, and cloud's made that completely possible, and it's changed all of our editors' lives to where when I say you have to work Saturday, they're like, that's okay. They're fine with it.
Excellent, thank you very much. And then Lisa, last but not least, CREE8. CREE8 is the cloud here in this instance. Tell us a little bit about where you see both your piece of it, but also just the value that it's bringing to these workflows that you're so familiar with.
Yeah, and I think the most fun for me in this particular workflow is actually being out on location with the people that are actually creating this content out of the events and really seeing where their pain points are and leveraging our platform at CREE8 to actually solve those problems. So at the core of what we do is centralizing content and bringing the tools, technology, and people to that content. So we're not having to push it around, shipping hard drives and those sorts of things. And so we'll talk a little bit about some of the ways we do that with live broadcasts. But the theory of us being able to ingest that content, bringing in multiple contribution streams to a single place, where a global team can access it within a very short period of time in under a few minutes, it really makes a huge difference. And I don't know if you guys saw Netflix's announcement for their content hub that they did for themselves. Well, you can think about CREE8 doing that for everybody. So we democratize access to those high-end tools for global teams, from live all the way to high-end features in one place, and make that available broadly to everybody quickly and easily.
Excellent. Does it help maybe before we jump into the video? Do we want to either? I think was this Lisa, your slide?
Yeah, this is a bit of the workflow, right? So on the left side there, you'll see really the venue contribution. So on the stage, the people that would be sending these contributions would be Mark with his production company, or Rob from his production, both of them in the truck. And so we bring those in this particular scenario, we work closely with AWS and using their elemental pipelines or the elemental link. And you can come to our booth and actually see this in action. We're actually doing a little scrappy production with people that don't really don't know how to do this on the ground, and bringing up CREE8 TV for the first time live here at NAB. So you'll see us doing this exact pipeline, and we're literally, we didn't pre-build this, we're really building this in front of you live on the show floor in the Creator Lab. We put this through our own transcoder, which creates, somebody who's talking about MXF files, right? For example, or a little bit earlier, we bring in a live growing file with no stitching that's really available to the editor within 30 to 40 seconds of the action happening on the track. And then that person is able to go, or a team can go into Premiere or whatever tool can read those files and pull content almost pretty much immediately. So as Mark was saying, they're then editing and they're pushing those things back, packages, brushes, whatever the right terminology is, which I don't use the terminology well. These guys have to correct me all the time when I'm learning. But they can push those right back down into the truck or out to whatever contribution that they need. We have worked with the CNN News team. They do the same workflow. They do vMix through our platform out to, say, YouTube Live. So this is we don't require any new hardware for this workflow. Whatever encoders you might happen to have there on the ground. This is a very quick and easy, streamlined push-button process to do end-to-end post-production for in near real-time production for live. And these guys can talk about how they use it specifically.
Well, maybe I could ask you, since Lisa did mention growing files, you brought that up as a big contention point in the work you were doing in other systems that have handled it differently, and an appreciation of what CREE8 was doing in this scenario. Can you sort of describe why that growing file is important for you in software-defined broadcast?
It's important too because racing is so reactive to what's happening, as any of the sport is. The ability for the growing file to be built in the storage, so an editor sitting in North Carolina can then be editing just like they're plugged into the TV truck. A good example is the end of the year award show that we do happens 12 hours after the final car goes down the track, and we have to air the winner packages as they win the race. So winning run goes down the track, growing files into storage, an editor cuts it, puts the highlight reel together, sends it back to the truck, gets ingested into EBS, and is played out as fast as you can imagine. Someone sitting in the truck couldn't do it faster than working out of CREE8.
Mark, by the way, did not mention at the beginning that you were the CEO of Terrell Corp. I'm very sorry that I bypassed your title as a part of the plug. I think it's very important, but I think you brought up the fact that this is different than the way past workflows have worked for you as well as part of this. So maybe you could talk a little bit about the pain point of this part of the production.
Yeah, I think anyone here who does live sports, live events, whatever, we're always up against it, deliverables everywhere at once. Before I met Lisa, we had pinch points everywhere. One of them's obvious, Rob's already hit on it, moving hard drives around. The more traditional workflows you'll find in a truck where the fastest thing was EBS and everything else was stick it in the X file, suck it up, and then start chopping stuff up. I think what really changed things for me, and I'll just say it, I've worked with a lot of companies that have promised to do things and it's not happened. What's impressive with these guys is that the growing file was a big thing, and I mean a real growing file. You keep hearing it around this show, and some of it's not actually a growing file, it's 22-minute segments that the editors still have to stitch. But there are one or two people here who do it. These guys took 2 weeks to come up with a real growing file, and then I tested extensively for 2 or 3 months, literally, in our truck. They sent people, once I saw it could actually do it, the beauty of this was that the rest of my team saw the advantages. So initially we were using this as a kind of post tool, a real-time post tool to make coverage better. But we then our field reporters, instead of, you don't need to come to the truck, just send it to the cloud from where you are. Our voiceover guy, he's never been in our truck, he's in Washington or somewhere else, and we just send him a script and everything is done there and then. So, of course, anyone that's done this here will recognize the fact that somewhere someone's actually got a tangible piece of media in their hands. We've eliminated all of it, literally. And I'm pleased to say we've tested this on multiple live broadcasts and it's held up. So yeah, kudos.
Connie, that sort of starts to get into the area you were talking about when we spoke about this previously, which is you're effectively having to chase the sun with production and you're working across multiple time zones with the work. So how does this workflow help with that particular part of the problem?
Yeah, so with our World Cup League in North America, we're one of 12 leagues around the globe. So when we have deliverables, we have a highlight program, we have an international highlight program, and we have a CBS highlight program we have to deliver. But immediately we have a ton of, and this is where I think the perspective that I have, I'm not a content creator. I'm the federation. I know what we need, and when things go wrong, I'm the complaint department. So the teams, when they don't work, like the press team isn't getting what they need, the social media team isn't getting what they need, Mark's not getting what he needs. Everybody comes to me and says, hey, this isn't working. I don't have what I need to turn out the winning round in 15 minutes after the event. So what happens we really pressed Mark to develop a post-edit workflow, and then all of a sudden, all of our teams became autonomous, and they had what they needed without asking. And that included our teams in Europe with social media, with the digital content team, for writing the stories, the press teams. Whatever they needed, it was in CREE8, whether it was a graphics package, an audio asset, logos, voice content, whatever it was sitting there in the workroom, and they could just go grab it, and they could spy on us from the cloud and watch what we're doing on the ground and get everything in real time. And so our social media team, I think three broadcasts in, they go, wait a minute, I think we can pluck out those viral moments in the winning round and put that out before we're even done with the production. So they actually posted viral moments and winning rounds while we were producing the rest of the show. We were closing the show, and we got our delivery time down to from 15 minutes to 2 minutes for the winning round.
So, I mean, you really went from having two different teams that toss things over the fence to each other to not even having them look over the shoulder, but just be one team that's collaborating on different outputs for different parts of the same story.
We were able to make everybody just independent of one another. Nobody was relying on waiting for the truck, waiting for EVS, there was no running back and forth of the truck. Everybody just went into CREE8, and what I really loved about our season with CREE8, because this is our first season with CREE8, is that once the content creators got into the platform, they started realizing it could do things that we didn't even know about. And they're like, wait, I think it can do this. Oh my God, wait a minute. And at every turn and every event, they found something new and a new way to use CREE8. And now we've got a seamless team that is completely autonomous, and the complaint department is yielding far fewer complaints.
By the way, I don't think you're the complaint department, I think you're the nervous system for the production. So you're just relaying important information that need to be known at a moment's notice.
And when it goes wrong, I get the phone call.
Exactly. Lisa, I mean, how is all of this ultimately affecting how the customers are rethinking who participates in production? What is the production team now versus?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that, in post-production, kind of the editorial department always kind of seems to sit on its own, right? And things go in a linear fashion from point to point on the workflow. This presentation that I uploaded today had two videos, which I'm dearly hoping you can hear the audio from, because the team worked really hard to edit them for you, so when we get to them, we can see them. So I won't have you click just yet, but these were very big files, and I needed to embed them in this PowerPoint presentation and upload them to the speaker portal. And I was in my hotel room, and my hotel connection, if you can imagine trying to download, I think it was going to be maybe 400 or 500 megs, and then putting it in the PowerPoint presentation, and then going into the speaker portal. Well, I didn't do that. I just went into CREE8 and opened up a virtual workstation, did it all on that workstation. I think the longest time it took me is I didn't have PowerPoint on that workstation, I had to install it. So I embedded the videos and was able to upload it into the speaker portal in a matter of moments, because we can transfer those files between 3 to 5 gigs per second. So I'm going to the content instead of trying to keep sucking that content down to me and then throwing whatever high-end compute that I need to it, and then already on the backbone, right? So when you think about that, now people start to think about that in more terms than just their editorial workloads. Each one of the people that Connie mentioned is like, oh, we can go to the same content. We can go pull our version of that. We can easily share that. We can publish it now without friction. And I think that's the transformation that we're really seeing. Is people once that unlocks them, a lot of editors are very, very resistant to it being not on their local machine. It's something that I think I'm going to be on a podcast on Tuesday, and he's gonna go right after me and tell me why my idea to do this is completely nuts. But that's okay, we support all those workflows, but I think once people understand the power of just going to the content and you can get whatever you need right there, it really is kind of a game changer. So
And the beauty of that, because we deliver a bunch of shows, shoulder programming to Fox, and it's hundreds of gigs a week to get those files up, and we got decent internet at our office, but now I do everything from my house because of CREE8, and I can push all 3 shows in 15, 20 minutes because of the power of the connection with AWS.
And this is, CREE8 implementing the 2030 vision in a nutshell, letting media stay in a central place and bringing the process to it.
Yeah, we are active members of the Movie Labs and the Industry Forum, the Hollywood Professional Association, really in the pocket, challenging these ideas and helping develop them out. So what we have is 2 videos. One, what we call is this is from horses to horsepower. So we have 2 videos, and ideally the audio will play.
See.
You don't know? I don't know. Oh, we don't hear it.
The noises.
There we go.
Hey!
They are going to burn this place to the ground in the best of ways. This sport, especially at this level of nitro drag racing, is at its best when everybody's cards are laying face up on the table. Everybody is preparing their equipment, and they are preparing it for victory here on a Sunday afternoon. You have to rise to the occasion, be your best when the chips are down.
And the underlying video, the editor is right here. It's amazing. I think you should give him a round of applause. I love that.
The thing I love that we discovered in the conversations around this is the 1 horsepower costs about what it ships to do the 1,000 horsepower cars. So there's a lot of analogies between the two, so this worked out well as part of that. I wanted to sort of switch a little bit into the social media and digital integration. We already talked about with you the fact that the digital teams aren't waiting anymore. I think that's super critical. But either Rob or Mark, or maybe Rob first and then Mark. So what are the pressures or the benefits that brings into the room and into basically that control room flow when you're doing an MCR? What's that change?
Well, it's, as a tech manager in a live TV show, I'm always like, my job is to have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, and a plan D to cover when those 3 fail. It's simple things like the growing file. If the EBS guy goes home early and forgets to melt something, they're like, oh, we really need that run from this. Oh, well, that's cool, just go get it out of the growing file. We sit in the clean and the dirty in real time. You want it with graphics? Grab it out of this folder. You want it without graphics? Grab it out of this folder. And again, it's the same thing. The social team's able to go in and say, oh, I don't have to wait for them to melt that now. I can just go clip it off myself. And simple things, we have a gentleman that does stats for us, couldn't come to the track a few times. I can send him the clean file link, and he can now watch the show from wherever he is. He was sitting in front of his pool doing stats, and he had the live feed right in front of him. So it's putting, I would say my job is to give people the tools to do their job. CREE8 gives me the tools to let them do their job without me having to sweat that it's not going to work.
Rob, maybe you could add to that also some of the ROI part of the equation as part of those benefits.
So I think, well, this is a two kind of pronged answer here. I think the other thing that's important, particularly with social, you have to be careful what you're setting out there. You can't, it's not a free-for-all, obviously. There are, people have to see what's going on and approve it. I think one of the things that's really, really good about CREE8, and this is something that got me onto it in the first place, was if anybody here doesn't want to download the platform or effectively hasn't got time, and that's kind of really, I think that's probably the mantra of social media, haven't got time. But the point is that you can send links out, you can look at it on your phone. I remember literally I could send out a link to anyone in this room, 10 of you, 12, doesn't matter. And go, can we review this before we send this out? And press a button, and we're all looking at it. It's basically like a giant Teams, but in the cloud, and it's approved, legal are looking at it, send it. And I think that alone is worth its weight in gold. And it's kind of reverse ROI. Yeah. Rather than a reverse, basically return on investment, it's really more a case of a return on not getting sued, which saves money.
Connie, you
Yeah, I was going to say a little bit about the return on investment too. Is that there's some untapped utilities, I think, with regard to the content and CREE8 for social that it's kind of brewing in the back of my mind, because we don't have to send all of the crew to the grounds anymore. We can just send somebody with a camera and say, here's your link, drop your content here when you get there. The producer stays home. So it really limits, because all of our talent is in Europe, essentially, and Kevin Riley and the crew from Wellington are here, so they know how much the plane tickets cost back and forth across the pond, and we all try to share those costs, but it really does limit the number of people that have to travel. But I think there's an opportunity for social media, actually, with CREE8 to start pushing content direct to athletes for their social media and letting them have clips and snippets, because one thing we haven't talked about is the clipping, the embedded metadata that automatically happens through AI. So there is the possibility to connect directly to the athletes' platforms, and we do that with the FEI. We have a platform where they have to go get their content from us to post on their social, or they're supposed to. It doesn't always work like that, but I think that CREE8 can bridge that gap as well. So you're really making it very easy for the athletes to get the correct, licensed content into their platforms, and share the content with them, with the social media teams, or the companies that are doing the press releases from afar, or the website postings. None of those people have to wait anymore. So when we would be finishing an event at midnight, everybody in Europe is hounding, where is it, where is it, where is it? And so I think the return on investment is truly about travel, but also in terms of people not being held up having to do their job. The worst thing I see whenever in my job is when my team is stagnant. If I have one team on the ground that isn't moving because another team hasn't delivered what they need, that bothers me. I need to keep my people moving. And CREE8, we didn't know it when we signed up with CREE8 that this was going to happen, but all of a sudden, all of our teams are moving at speed, at the speed they choose, doing what they need to do seamlessly. And it was the autonomy of the teams is really what has impressed me the most.
We felt productivity went up too, because now people are working out of their home. They get to have a better experience because they're in their house using the tools that they're familiar with, but they don't have to travel to site.
And I would also say their creativity went up too, because they're worried less about the drive, how we're going to get this around, who needs this. They're not thinking about the workflow and the process. They're thinking about the content.
As you were saying that, I also had a question that came up that has nothing to do with this, which is, do horses have social media accounts, and can I follow them on Instagram?
They absolutely do.
I'm going to now follow a horse on Instagram, which is not a takeaway from today that I expected to have out of this. But we're really down to the last few minutes, but Lisa, I'm sort of going to hand it over to you and ask the question, and others please feel free to add to this, but what's that one myth about cloud production that you'd like to put to rest out of what you've learned from this?
One of the things that is a principle at CREE8 is that we understand and support your workflow. So when we have an editor or a creator that logs into a virtual machine, because I think a lot of people think, oh, you're just a virtual machine company. We have virtual machines because they help you get that power that you need for creativity right next to your content. But it's about the creativity piece of it, like Connie was mentioning. We're just reducing and removing all of that friction. And I think the thing that people believe all the time is that, oh, I don't want to remote control a computer in the cloud because of the latency. But I will tell you, 80% of people are remoting into an office to control a computer in the office already. So this is the exact same scenario. So I think that's one of the big things. But before I hand it to my esteemed colleagues, there is one principle that I want to mention that we really hold dear, and that is that we support your workflow. We support your tools. So when your editors move from a local machine, maybe locally here, or remoting into the office to control a machine, when they log into CREE8, it's a familiar environment. We understand muscle memory. We understand the speed that's required to do that job. We're not coming here to tell you to do something totally different than what you've done your entire career. And I think that's why Connie's talking about the fact that once they get in, oh, this is familiar. I don't have the cognitive load to try to learn some brand new solution or some brand new workflow. And then that opens the opportunity for them to come back to us and say, this thing that we're doing here is connected to your system. Can we make that better? And we evolve that workflow with them in the way they think and they want to create, which I think makes it much simpler for them to get going on CREE8 than potentially trying to piece this together themselves.
We've only got 2 minutes, but I want to get a quick hit from each of you. So sort of mark on this and sort of.
Just going to dovetail off the back of what Lisa just said there. I mean, there's resistance everywhere. Everyone's familiar with their own tool. They like to use it, and typically you'll see, particularly at this show, you know, some very big names will go, "We have a solution for you," and we go, "Great, it's your solution, not mine." And what's happened with this platform here is that there's no fear to use it, as Connie said as well earlier on. I mean, with our teams on the horses, I mean, I'm doing rugby as well at the moment. This is just today. We're using the platform to push the SRT streams. I mean, there's nothing we don't do. We pushed a Signian for the CBS playout for the highlights. It's just, people just get it, and it's nice.
And I'd like to point out they were troubleshooting it on their phones from a feed while we were prepping in the speakers room. So it's not like they set aside time to doing it. You're doing it while you're doing everything else. Connie, any last words?
I would say don't limit yourself to what we said here, what CREE8 can do, because I think all of us up here have, every time we use it, we go out to another sporting event, we discover some new possibilities. So if there's like Lisa said, if there's a pain point in your workflow or some resistance with your higher ups, the chances are the solution is in CREE8. You just have to get on the platform, look in there, and figure it out.
Lisa's team this week launched something that streamlined my QC process. When I started, it was like a 3-day process. It's now 5.5 minutes, and I don't even have to touch it. It's completely automated now.
Perfect way to end. Tom, Connie, back with you.
Hey, well, thank you so much, panel. Let's give a round of applause. And I'll tell you why I really love this panel is because it's customers talking about their real workflows and about the success that they've had. So thank you so much for coming here, sharing this with this audience. This is wonderful stories. I'm very glad to hear this. So thank you so much, and thank you all for your attention. Bye-bye.
There's another AI tool that I can use, but a lot of them aren't very good. When you get into the weeds, the Rotoscope is a good example.
So we got this panel streaming live on CREE8 TV, something we haven't done at NAB before. We didn't know if we were going to be able to get it done. We figured it out, talked to the camera guys who were great. Very simple solution, plugged in, straight to the encoder, to the cloud, growing file. I timed it, we're about 5 seconds below right now, so busy conference. If you're not here, back at the hotel, resting your feet, you can still watch the Creator main stage live on CREE8.tv.
It's great, and that color allows me to
We were just talking about the biggest achievement in your 25 years. What are some of the biggest changes you've seen in the last 2.5 decades?
It's really strange coming to the show every year and seeing who has the anchor spots. So really, as a broadcaster, we judge people based on like what they're willing to spend in the space. And so when you see people like Ross now has one of the biggest booths, and even like Blackmagic announced Thursday a video card that you can put into your computer that will do 8 channels of 2110 for under $2,000. That's insane. It's amazing that the technology's come this far that now for under 10 grand I can build a playback server in 2110.
you've been talking about some of the technological developments. What about specifically in the cloud? Like, what have you seen recently, upgrades in the cloud?
Cloud used to be this kind of vaporware thing that everybody said, oh, the cloud's going to take over, the cloud's going to take over. And 20 years ago, the cloud was this idea that we all thought would happen eventually, but we were limited by bandwidth. Now that we're seeing 20, 100, 200 gig connections at facilities, the ability to remote all of this workflow into a cloud space and be able to do the same level, if not enhanced production without having to have on-prem equipment, the cloud's been a game changer for everybody. It's really finding the people that know how to embrace it, to clean up the workflows and be able to use it to the advantage of the workflow that I would have to have millions of dollars of machinery in the truck. Now it's off-site and I just have to spin up an instance, do my work, bring it back down, and it doesn't cost the CapEx expenditure I would normally have to have.
If you could make one headache in your workflow disappear, what is it?
Files, like still, there's going to be a day that we figure out where I don't have to wait for the X file to make hundreds of gigs of files every night, where we figure out a way to, if it's, quantum, whatever it is, to where the video's done, you say put it on a disc or whatever the media becomes, and it's just ready to be used.
Great. We're going to hit a rapid fire round right now. Describe NAB 2025 in 3 words.
AI.
All right, 6 letters. Creators don't realize yet how much blank will change the game.
Cloud.
People aren't talking enough about
Cloud.
I love it. If I could edit content from anywhere, I would choose
my house with my coffee machine.
The house with a coffee machine. And sometimes we talk about this idea of a workflow monster, like what gets in the way of your biggest problems. What would you name your workflow monster?
Oh gosh, the Beast. It's actually what my workstation in CREE8 is called, the Beast.
Okay. And then last thing, we didn't introduce you, so if you don't mind just saying who you are, what you do, and why you're here.
I'm Rob Hedrick. I'm the Senior Director of Production for the National Hot Rod Association and the Technical Operations Manager for the NHRA on Fox.
Awesome. Maybe I'll throw out one more question. You were just on a panel about live production in sports. What's your number one takeaway from the panel?
I think that the tools, really NAB is one of the best places to figure out the tools to do the workflows, and the people that succeed in content creation know how to find the resources and the tools to help streamline their workflow and then help explain it to others. I think that's why NAB is really important, is that it lets the people who do this every day get in a room with the other people who do it every day, and then we can share ideas, whether it's successes or failures. We learn from all of that, and the more open we can all be, NAB gives us a space to do that.
Great. Any other thoughts you want to get across before we conclude?
There's a bagel place across the street from West Hall that's fantastic.
I saw that driving up
for lunch.
Yeah. Okay, good. Let's just start with a brief introduction.
Hi, I'm Connie Sawyer. I own Connie Sawyer LLC, but I also represent the FEI as the event manager for North America and the North American World Cup League.
Great. And what does FEI do?
They are the International Sports Federation for Equestrian Sports.
Great. You were on the panel earlier with some other partners of CREE8. Can you just give us a high-level takeaway from what you guys talked about?
I think we talked mostly about workflows and how CREE8 has brought teams to the content to create seamless interaction so that everybody has what they need to do their job efficiently and well and be creative.
I know you oversee a lot of different teams producing content, social content, live content. What's like the biggest problem you were hearing from them before you moved to CREE8?
I would say that everybody was waiting on each other. So there was a lot of waiting on the broadcast and live team so that the social media and digital team could do their job. There was a lot of waiting on the ENG crew so that the broadcast team could do their job in the truck. And with CREE8, we're putting all of the content in one location, and anybody on site doesn't need to run to the truck. They can upload their content to the cloud right from the grounds, and then everybody off site can actually spy on us and the work we're doing on the ground and pick and choose what they need as it comes up into CREE8. So nobody has to wait anymore. They're completely autonomous, and all of the content, video assets, audio assets, branding assets, everything lives in one place in the workstation, and they can grab and go.
As somebody who hears from a lot of different teams, their wins and their challenges, what has been the reception so far?
Oh my gosh. We have one editor who is a freelance, and he said to his next job that he would only take the job if they were on CREE8 with him. So that speaks volumes, but I think the teams actually, overwhelmingly positive in ways that we didn't anticipate. We thought it was a solution to a workflows problem and would help us shorten delivery turnaround times. We had no idea what it was capable of, but once our creators got into the platform, they started finding ways to utilize it and got very creative with it and said it's a game changer.
We're going to switch to a rapid fire. Describe NAB 2025 in 3 words.
Fascinating, overwhelming, and very technical for someone like me.
People aren't talking enough about.
People aren't talking enough about how workflows and technology add to a creator's workload, and that takes away from their creativity.
Any parting advice from day one?
Bring comfortable shoes.
Awesome.
I'm Mark Jenin. I'm the head of production for Tyrell Corporation, a full-service post-production company.
Wonderful. And you're on the panel with our with the CEO of CREE8, Lisa, and it was about from camera to cloud. Can you give us a quick takeaway of what you guys talked about?
Yeah, I think the most important part was the USPs of CREE8, which a lot of people don't get. And I think the biggest thing for us is being able to get the message across as customers, of course, that use the platform. And I think it lit off some light bulbs in that room, judging by the reaction we got when we left.
Right. And when you initially migrated to CREE8, what was like the biggest hesitation before you made that jump?
Genuinely, the ability to create growing files, because I've been told that for 2 decades, and it's never happened. And for the team to come out with a solution in 2 weeks that I then tested extensively and it didn't fail, to me that was the big one. And once that was done, we're good.
Right. Aside from CREE8, what's the coolest thing you've seen so far?
I haven't seen it yet, but I'm looking at mesh wireless systems, which are becoming a little more stable. Eventually, if these things do what they say they can do, we will not need cable anymore to do a job, which means we can do it quicker, cheaper, and faster.
Right. If you could make one headache in your workflow disappear, what would it be?
That's a very good one, actually. I think it would probably be time zones, because we're using people all around the world, and some of those are burning the midnight oil to do what we need.
We're going to switch into rapid fire mode here.
Yep.
Describe NAB 2025 in 3 words.
Busy as usual.
Creators don't realize yet how much playing will change the game.
Connectivity.
People aren't talking enough about playing.
Mesh.
If you could edit content from anywhere in the world, where would it be?
My house.
Not the first one to say that. If you like this concept of like a workflow monster, some big recurring problem that gets in your way, what would you call your workflow monster?
Connectivity.
Okay.
Really. Without it, we can't do anything. Or power. Same deal.
Any parting wisdom for the crowd here today?
Yeah, I think don't believe what they're selling you, and don't be frightened to dive in and ask some very, very straightforward questions, and don't let them get away with an evading answer.
Thanks for tuning in to day 2, CREE8.tv. We did a lot of new stuff today, talked to some great partners, started the live broadcast from the Creator Lab. We're going to keep that going the next couple days. Keep subscribing on social. Come back to CREE8 TV tomorrow for even more. Thank you.